expanding our storage space. Hi, this is Jim from RV4x40.com. Welcome to the channel today. We're here to try to show you a few things about RVing the way we do it, perhaps give you some insights and some tips on how to do things better, and certainly show you some of the places we have been. This week I want to talk about something I've done before in the previous motorhome we had, and that is adding some storage space. With your full-time in one of these things, I don't care really how big it is, I don't think you could ever quite have enough storage space for the things you'd like to take along. So part of the process is pruning down and getting rid of things that you don't really need, and we've done a lot of that in the last 4 years, certainly. But if you watched last week's video, we just added a Blackstone griddle, replacing our older propane-fired grill, and so far that's been a good addition. However, I am finding that there are a number of accessories that I need to have to use a griddle effectively, and we really don't have a good place to put those. The nooks and crannies are pretty well filled up. So I'm going to add a couple of shelves, and I'll show you how we're going to do that and give you some details on that. This is particularly applicable to a Class A motorhome because they're all built kind of about the same way. There's a center spine of some kind of steel structure that goes down the middle of the coach. And in our case, we have trays that roll in and out, and they take whatever is on the tray has to go under that center spine. So it limits the height of what you can put on the tray if you want to be able to pull it out without knocking stuff off, and that's never a good idea. So I figured a way on the last coach for how to do some shelves that are above that site. They use otherwise empty volume inside of the RV. And I'm going to show you what I'm going to do on this coach as we go along. So hopefully it'll give you some ideas if there's spaces like this for ways you might be able to, with a few simple additions, make it more usable space. So stay tuned and we'll walk you through the details. We're going to need just a few bits and pieces to make this work right. I've got the table out. I've got a towel on that to protect both the table surface as well as the part that are being worked on. And what you can see there is an 8-foot length of shelving from Home Depot. It's basically just closet shelf. It's relatively strong. It won't take a huge amount of weight, but more weight than we're going to want to put up in this part of the RV anyway. And it does have a reinforcing rib along what will be the front. And whereas that might normally be put down, you can use it as a hanger rail in some cases. We're going to put that on the upside so it can act as a little bit of a barrier for things falling off of it. In our case, the way the structure is in this RV, and we'll show you that in a minute, is I can put in a approximately 4-foot length that's actually going to be 47.5 inches long in two different places. I'm going to do it on one side of the RV only. I did it on both sides in the last RV, but I'm not sure I need that. And the other side of the RV is a lot harder to get to with the slides out. So we're going to do that. And I'm going to make the brackets for this so that everything is nice and secure, and they'll have to be screwed into the walls of the RV. But we're going to have a piece of angle aluminum, and that happens to be 1.25 inches on a side by 1/16 of an inch thick. Again, Home Depot. Not a problem to get that at all. And then the last thing we're going to need in terms of major hardware, in order to hold the shelving to the brackets, I've had this problem before, you need something pretty good size. So I've got some fender washers. These happen to be 1/4 inch by 1.25 inches, so they'll fit on that. They'll also fit into the gaps between the wire, so we can take care of that as far as that's concerned. We'll also need some sheet metal screws and a drill and some way to cut this stuff and some way to mark it. So those are all pretty standard operations. So you've got these reinforcing rods that come down the length. There's 4 of those to cut, so a little bit of cutting to do to get it apart. Unfortunately, I'm going to have to make only 2 cuts in this. This is 8 feet long, and I need 47.5 inches, so I really take about 1 inch out of the middle. I will have to do some cutting out of some of these cross pieces in order to clear some wiring that's already in place in one of the openings, but that will be a minor thing in terms of the overall effectivity of the shelf. So that's what we got to deal with. Let's go get started on figuring out how to get this cut and how to put it in place. This will give you a view of where we're going to install the shelf. You can see the tray has been pulled out. The other side, you can also see the See if my finger can get in here and mess things up. This is the cross beam. That's the main structure of the chassis going around there. And as I mentioned, I've got some wires over here. I'm going to have to figure out a way to clear around. So that's the space we have. We want to get the shelf a little bit above that space so that it's not real tight when things are coming across from the other side. Of course, when the slide is in, everything has to clear, but then if you wanted to pull the slide out from the other side, everything would have to clear, so the shelf can't be in the way for that either. This view will give you more of a close-up of what we're having to deal with. As you can see in the corner, there's some wires already running down. We're going to have to clear those. And what's not probably obvious in the video is that this kind of slanted line along here, and it is slanted, that's an angled iron, and behind that up here is a more of a sheet metal, but it's still a pretty strong brace that goes across under the floor up at the top. So we're going to want to get the shelf relatively tight back against the main beam in the back here, so stuff can't roll off of the back of it. At least nothing that's very big can get off the back, so we don't have to be tight against it, but a relatively small space there. And I want to tilt it just a little bit from the front to the back so that anything which is on there will tend to go back towards the back instead of rolling off of the front when we're going down the road. So our next thing is to get the braces put in along the side. They're turned out to be 11 inches long out of the aluminum. They're 11 inches long out of the aluminum I had. I've pre-drilled a couple of holes that will just go with sheet metal screws into the side brace here, nothing into the back wall, and then those will be on either side, and then 2 screws down through the brace to hold the shelf in place so it doesn't go sliding around. So that's what we're going to do, and I'll show you that hopefully after we get it all installed, at least this first one here in a few minutes. Well, it's perhaps a bit hard to see, but after a little bit of work and finagling and getting things cut to fit, particularly had to work around the wires I pointed out earlier on the right hand side, and we got everything installed and the shelf is there. It's where we wanted it, and as you can see, it's above the center part of the coach, above the critical part that has to clear everything, and it's got a little bit of a slope to the back. The back end is pretty much up against the big chassis rails that are in there to hold everything together, so stuff should not be coming off of that, I don't think. So that's one of them done, and learned a couple of things I think about how to put it together. But once we get the other one in, we'll be finished with this job. So won't bore you with the details, but the other one's going to look just about like this one. And let me go slide the tray in from the other side, and you can watch it come back across. So here we go. Everything should be just coming right back at you. So with everything back in place, and that's what it'll look like, give me a little bit of light storage up above. I hope you found that video useful, maybe entertaining, perhaps gives you some ideas for things you might do. If you like the video, please give it a thumbs up. If you haven't already subscribed to the channel, we would appreciate it if you would do that. You can click on the subscribe button down below, and then the bell icon will get you notified when we post a new video. That's it for this week. Hope you enjoyed it. And as we travel the highways and byways of America, we hope to see you. And if you see us in a boondocking site somewhere, stop by and say hello. We'd love to see you and talk to you. In the meantime, you have a great week and safe travels.